And a very happy Thursday to you at 12:07 in the West. It's the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang has the week off. He'll be back with us on Monday. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. When I was a child and I would do something that would upset my dad, he would always correct me. For example, I loved to leave the light on in rooms that I was no longer in. Why? I don't know. I just did. And I did it repeatedly. And he would run around the house and look at all the rooms that I wasn't in, that I turned the lights on in, and he would turn the lights off. And he would ask me if I think that he is supposed to pay the bill for the electric company. And I said, it's no big deal, it's a light. And his response would always be, he who pays the bills makes the rules. That's the way it works. And that's not just the way it worked in Casa de Phillips. It's the way it works around the globe. If you pay the bills, you call the shots. If you're paying for your kid's car when they turn 16 years of age and for their insurance, you get to decide where they get to go. You get to decide who gets to ride in the car with them. You get to decide what kind of car the kid drives. You get to decide what kind of insurance policy you put the kid on. All of those decisions fall into the hands of the person who pays the bills. He who pays the bills makes the rules. The same thing is true with taxpayers. If you are on the government dole, you give up a certain amount of freedom. That's just the way it works. If you want to make all of the decisions in your own life, that's fine. You just have to pay the bill because, after all, he who pays the bills makes the rules. If you have decided that you want someone else to pay your bills and you don't want to let them make the rules, you want to make the rules yourself, that's not how it works. And right now in Washington, D.C., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., is laying that law down nationally. According to breaking news, Secretary RFK Jr. says he's officially moving to ban food stamps from being used for soda. Here's what he had to say. Quote, the U.S. taxpayers should not be paying to feed the poorest kids in the country food that will give them diabetes. We are spending $405 million a day on SNAP. 10% of that money is going to sugary drinks. If you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. We all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you should be able to do that. But the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it, end quote. Amen to that. It's about time the U.S. taxpayer is off the hook for buying food and drinks that will make people fat. We live in one of the few countries on planet Earth where the rich people are thin and the poor people are fat. Have you noticed that? You go to other countries and that's not the case. If you don't believe me, just look at late night TV. When they put those ads on with Sally Struthers and they ask you to send money for the kids in Africa, none of them have a D cup. Yet, you go to the beach in California and what do you see? You see a bunch of little boys with bigger breasts than the grown women. And that's because they're fat. And they're fat not because they have a slow metabolism, not because of bad genetics. They're fat because of what they eat. They eat too much sugar and they drink too much soda. It's as simple as that. It's always a shocker when people come here from other parts of the country or other parts of the globe because they have a certain idea as to what the people look like in California. I think Baywatch is responsible for that personally. They come here and they picture all the women to be running in slow motion on the beach with their breasts bouncing up and down, and all of the men to look like David Hasselhoff before the incident with the alcohol and the dog bowl. That's what they picture in their mind. And then they come here and they see a bunch of morbidly obese people sitting at the beach looking like beached whales. And they say to themselves, there is some kind of disconnect going on here. Something doesn't connect. What happened to the California I saw on TV? And the answer is, most of us have a horrible diet. That's the reason that we're overweight. That's the reason that we have the health problems that we have. And to that point, because so many of these people who are on food stamps also rely on the United States taxpayer to pay for their health care, if you allow them to get obese, then guess what else you're on the hook for? You're on the hook to treat their diabetes. You're on the hook to buy them new hips. You're on the hook to pay for everything that comes along with having a blood type of ragu. That's what happens. And it's because of poor choices at the supermarket, poor choices at the restaurants, poor choices when it comes to what to eat. You've seen people in front of you in line at the grocery store paying for their items with government food stamps. They put the videos up on Costco all the time on social media. They're trying to make the case that you can't cut their food stamps because everything they're purchasing is a necessity for them and their family. But I don't think they understand how that's backfiring when they show the world what they buy. There was one woman who went to Costco and spent several $100s buying food for her family. Now, I'm not going to say that everything in that cart was unhealthy, but I can tell you this. The only fruit in that cart was on the box of Trix. That was it. And how often do you go into a neighborhood and see a series of fast food joints, and what do they have on the walls? What are they advertising to the general public? We accept EBT. That's what they say. We accept EBT. And those signs are bigger than the picture of Ronald McDonald himself. Because they know their audience. They know who's going there and who's buying those Big Macs and quarter pounders and fried apple pies and everything else that they sell on that menu. The other thing that I've heard when people speak out in opposition of this is that they say that we're picking on poor people, that we just like to kick poor people when they're down and take away their choices and treat them as if they are children and we are the adults and we have to make the choices for them. Let me be here to tell you that eating healthy is not punishment. You can eat healthy and have the food taste good. It's very possible to do that. I don't know why it is that people assume that if you eat healthy foods, it has to taste awful. Now, some healthy foods do taste awful, and I am willing to admit that. But eating healthy in general is not a punishment. Maybe eating vegan is a punishment, but eating healthy is not a punishment. And if you are on food stamps and you are on government health care, my guess is you've made some wrong choices in your life, and it's time that someone helped you make some good ones. And eating healthy is a good place to start. One of the other claims that's made by people who oppose doing this is that in poor neighborhoods, there aren't very many Whole Foods. Well, that is true. And you know what? In those neighborhoods, if they stopped robbing them right and left, then maybe they'd have more options. We talk about this when we talk about the crime blotter stories on this program all the time. These stores get knocked off right and left. Sometimes they even take a stolen Kia and drive it right through the wall. And there are consequences to treating your grocery stores and your pharmacies and your 7-Elevens like that. The answer is those locations become liabilities for the company. If you know you're not going to make money in a certain neighborhood, or you know that you're going to get robbed to the point to where you're not going to be able to ensure the safety of your customers or your employees, and you're forced to shut down the location, you're not doing that to punish the people in the neighborhood. You're doing that because you need to protect your shareholders. You need to protect the people that own your company. And having a location that doesn't make money and gets robbed all the time is not the way to do that. And what happens in these areas where that occurs? These are the same areas that elected people like George Gascon and Chesa Boudin and Pamela Price and all of these soft on crime prosecutors who ran on the platform of looking the other way. Well, if your DAs are going to look the other way when your stores are going to get robbed, then don't be surprised when you have no place to shop. That being said, in the state of California, I can't think of any neighborhood in any zip code where people don't have access to fruits and vegetables. I really can't think of one. In Los Angeles, we are such a dense city, you may not have that kind of grocery store within walking distance, but you certainly have that kind of grocery store that's a quick bus trip away or a quick Uber ride away. You have access to those things. It may not be the easiest thing to have access to, but you certainly have access to those things. People choose not to buy them. They choose not to buy them. They choose not to cook them. They choose not to have their children eat them. Part of it, I believe, is laziness. Because if you buy fruits and vegetables and healthy food items, beans, rice, let's say, you have to prepare them. It's not like you just drive through the drive-thru and order through the clown's nose. That's easy. Where piping hot food that tastes good, that's not particularly good for you, appears in your car and your family has a nice warm meal that's just not that healthy. You can eat much cheaper than the fast food joints at home and eat healthy at the same time. Just take a look at whatever it is your bill is the next time you go to a fast food joint and look at what your bill is at the grocery store if you prepare a healthy meal. It's not even close. The two are not comparable. Prices, even in down market restaurants, have gotten so high that it's cheaper to cook at home than to go to even some of the most cost-efficient restaurants that exist here in the state of California. But you have to figure out how to prepare it. And you have to figure out how to prepare it in a way that tastes good, which means you have to get on the Google and you have to figure out what recipes work for you and your family. And I think a lot of people just don't have any interest in doing that. And as a result, we have the obesity rates that we have. I'm willing to go beyond saying that food stamps shouldn't go for sugary sodas. I don't think any food that the government buys in general should go to junk. If we're paying for it, it should all be healthy. That goes for public hospitals. That goes for prisons. That goes for free lunch and free breakfast at schools. If we're paying for it, they should be eating a healthy, nutritious meal. And again, I'm not saying they should eat cardboard that tastes like it. I'm saying they need to eat something that's not going to give them diabetes. It's about time that we instituted this policy nationally. I'm glad that Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. decide to move in that direction. And I hope that this isn't the ending of it. I hope this is just the beginning. First, sugary drinks, then fast food, and then let's basically do anything with Little Debbie's name on it. None of that should be paid for by the taxpayers. I'm curious to get your take on this at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Should taxpayers be on the hook to pay for junk food for people on SNAP, people on food stamps? I say no. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Your call's coming up right here on The John Phillips Show. It's The John Phillips Show. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And if you'd like to listen to the podcast edition of this program, all you have to do is whip out your handy-dandy smartphone and click subscribe in the podcast app on your phone to The John Phillips Show. All of the episodes will be downloaded to your phone automatically, and you can listen to us whenever and wherever you want. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The Trump administration says that food stamps will no longer be able to be used for sugary sodas. I think it's about time we started doing this. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Let's begin with Anna from Sylmar. Anna, hello.
Hey, you are so right today. And at the point that you were saying, I know that some neighborhoods don't have health food stores, but all markets today carry health food brands like veggie burgers and stuff. But also, then you went to fruit and vegetables. Absolutely. But, the Whole Foods in downtown, that's where this woman was having lunch, and they stole her little doggie, and the woman jumped in the car, and she almost got killed, and they stole the dog, the Frenchie, and she never got it back. But anyway, so this is why people are moving from those neighborhoods. But I've been a vegetarian for a long time, since the 80s in South America, and we managed to buy healthy food, and we never use soda, so it's not hurting me. But you're so right today. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you so much for the call. 800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. The Trump administration says no more food stamps to be used, or no longer food stamps can be used for sugary sodas. I think the decision is great. It's about time that we did that. We should have been doing that in California for a very long time. Now we're doing it nationally. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. More of your calls coming up in moments right here on The John Phillips Show. John Phillips here for Hollywood Suits. Guys, I met the owner at the Orange County store. The place is amazing. It's like Disneyland for suits. If you're buying your suits at retail stores or expensive men's stores, chances are they're made by the people who own Hollywood Suits. At Hollywood Suits, they make it all. They make the fabric, the suits, and sell directly to you from their 3 gigantic locations in Hollywood, Torrance, and Westminster. Listen to this amazing deal. 3 wool suits, the finest fabric, for only $599. On top of that, they add in 3 cotton shirts, 3 silk ties, belt, socks, and handkerchiefs, all at no extra charge. They sell everything: slacks, shoes, overcoats, tuxedos, dinner jackets. It's an amazing place. They have all the major brands from Armani, Canali, Salvatore Laurenti, and so many others at the lowest prices anywhere. Give them a call at 800-SUITS-99 or find them online at HollywoodSuits.com. It's the John Phillips Show. The Fix California Hour coming up after the news at 1. Former Senator Melissa Melendez joins us. Right now, we're taking your calls at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. The Trump administration says food stamps can no longer be used for sugary sodas. What say you at 800-222-5222? Let's begin with Joe from Santa Monica. Joe, hello.
How are you? My girlfriend's family's all from Mexico, and I just wanted to say that when we visited and had dinner, that they echoed exactly what you just said. They went to Costco and they looked around and they couldn't believe how there were so many fat people here in America. And that's item 1. Item 2, I am cooking lunch. I got it all at Costco. Some diced onions, that frozen salmon patty on top of that, 2 scoops of spinach. Put the cover on the pot and warm it for 15 minutes. And John, it is delicious.
Now,
Thank you.
I bet your wife's family thinks they're not drinking soda. I bet your wife's family thinking they're just drinking maple syrup straight from the bottle.
I guess so. My girlfriend, excuse me, she's very healthy, and she loves Donald Trump. But I got to tell you, she loves Coca-Cola. Anyhow,
I do too.
Life.
I just don't let myself have it that often. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. And I pay for it. The taxpayers don't. Let's go to Brian from the Bay Area. Brian, hello.
How you doing, John?
Good.
I think Oliver Anthony said it best. If you're 5'3", the government and 300 pounds, the government ought not to buy your bag of fudge rounds.
You know, if you keep rhyming like that, you could be the mayor of Los Angeles.
Well, I like it when they had the EBT stamp cards. When I was a kid, we used to buy them for half price.
Are you
Credit card.
Are you a fan of the cruise ships by chance?
Not until they get a skateboard park on them.
Okay. Well, I'm a big fan of the cruise ships, and the new deal now is if you book yourself a cruise, there's a Facebook page for each sailing. So that way you can meet people who are going to be on the cruise before you actually get on the ship, just in case, I don't know, you're planning on going golfing in one of the stops and you're looking for someone to golf with, that sort of thing. And people also use that as a forum to ask questions about the sailing. I'm not making this up. One of the most common questions that I get in those Facebook groups is, can you go on the water slides if you weigh more than 300 pounds?
Sounds about right.
And the answer is no. I don't know if the reason is because they think you're going to bend the slide or you're going to get stuck in there, but they make you stand on a scale before they let you go up the stairs to ride the slide.
There's liability, too, if you get hurt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and if you weigh more, it's like that scene from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory when the bad egg would stand on the scale and you just go down a chute.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the call, Sarah. Let's go to Ed from Santa Clarita. Ed, hello. Ed, are you there, Sarah? Okay, let's go to Lewis from Los Angeles. Lewis, hello.
Hi, John.
Hi there.
Listen, you guys are talking about you don't want your taxpayers' money paying for junk food. That's all true. That's all good. No problem with that. But if I'm a retiree and I paid into the system, or I'm a working person paying through the system, do I get a say in how I spend my benefits?
So you're saying if you were on Social Security, let's say, should we dictate what you can buy or not buy?
Because I paid into the system. Or if I'm still working and I'm paying taxes, don't I get a say in how I spend the money? Because it's my taxpayer dollar too.
Sure. If you're paying for it, you can choose whatever you want at the grocery store. But if you're saying that you don't have the means to buy your own groceries and the rest of us have to pay for it, then I think we get a say.
If I'm getting EBT as a taxpayer, a current taxpayer, or I'm retired and I paid into the system, I should get a say in how I spend my benefits. And
Okay,
what you say is all true. It is junk. It is a waste. It is unhealthy. But if I paid my taxpayer dollars, I should spend it the way I want to.
Well, how about this? There are people who paid their taxes before they were sentenced to prison. Once you go to prison,
Right.
the state determines what you're served for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I think those people should be served healthy food too. Should they have a say?
No, they're in custody. But I'm a free taxpayer. I had no choice but to pay the tax. I paid into the system, or I'm still paying into the system as an EBT holder. And like I said, cut the crap about my health. What do you care about my health? It's none of your business. I don't care about that. I mind you all using the rules of I don't want my taxpayer dollar. But if I'm a taxpayer, I should have a say.
Well,
and all this stuff is all true. It's junk. It is junk. It's a killer. But I paid into the system. I want to spend it my way.
If you're on EBT, then you're probably on government health care too. And if you eat
But
junk,
you can
we
still
know
be
what's going to
working.
happen. And then the rest of us are supposed to pay that bill too.
No, I don't think it works that way. If I am EBT because I don't make a lot of money, I'm still paying taxes. Or if I'm a retiree, I've already paid in the system my entire life. Now you want to tell me I can't spend it because of taxpayer dollars, but I am a taxpayer, or was a taxpayer, still paying taxes. I should have a say in how I spend my benefit money.
There are strings attached to virtually all government spending. Whenever the government spends money, we're not just talking about for poor people. Let's say the federal government gives the state money for education. That money has all kinds of strings attached to it. They want you to do certain things. They don't want you to do other things. If you accept that money, you have to accept the rules that come with it. That's the way government spending works.
But you're too late. I've already paid into the system. I paid into the system. I'm paying into the system, regardless of the stream. Now you want to pull this from me, but I'm a taxpayer, which is you all's large, your biggest complaint is that you don't want your taxpayer dollars going to there. And I understand. I can't even argue against it. But if I'm paying taxes just like you're paying taxes, I should have a say.
Well,
and the crap about my health, you guys don't care about my health. I mean, come on.
Look at it from the other point of view. If you're the taxpayers and you're paying for this, you're paying for these food stamps because you don't want people to starve, you don't want people to go hungry. For then those people who are accepting that gift, they're accepting those services, that help from the government, to then turn around and say, you have no say in how this money is spent, is kind of presumptuous, don't you think?
No, I do not. I do not.
All right.
Thank you. And I can't. Well, thank you.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Dale from Long Beach. Dale, hello.
Hello, John. I think it's a bad idea because if the baby mama doesn't have soda money, they might start drinking straight liquor and abuse the children.
Thank you for the call, sir. I appreciate it. Let's go to Joe from Alameda. Joe, hello.
Hey, so I have a quick comment. First, thank you for letting me on. And second is instead of giving them cash, why don't we just give them vouchers to pay the bills?
I'm sorry, you cut out there. I didn't make out what you said.
Okay, so instead of giving cash, why do we not give vouchers to pay the bills?
Well, we basically do. They used to be actual stamps that we distributed to people, and now I think they have a credit card or a credit card-looking item.
Yeah, but when I'm talking about, say, PG&E, I'm talking about that bill.
Okay.
Instead of giving cash, PG&E sends the bill, and then they send the bill to whatever state or whatever it gets processed, or however they process it.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. 800-222-5222. Didn't follow that one. 800-222-5222. The federal government says food stamps can no longer be used to buy sugary sodas. I think that's a great idea. What say you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Your call's coming up right here on The John Phillips Show. John Phillips Show, 800-222-5222 is the telephone number. 1-800-222-5222. The feds say you can't use food stamps for sugary soda anymore. I think it's a great idea. What say you at 800-222-5222? Let's begin with Dan from Linwood. Dan, hello.
Yeah, that guy that called and said he's paid it through the system, were we supposed to give him a dialysis card, too, for diabetes and everything? What a clown. I mean, it's amazing. And I will bet you most of these dialysis centers that are making billions from the taxpayer Medicare fund are going to be against this no more sugar stuff on the EBT cards. These people just fill themselves up.
All right, you just cut out there. But yeah, you raise an excellent point. There's always strings attached when the government is paying for something. The federal government doesn't give $1 to the states without telling them exactly how they can use it and how they can't use it. There was a big fight over federal dollars going to the states about whether or not states could allow transgendered athletes to participate in women's sports. The feds say you can't allow that to happen or we're not going to give you any more money. Trump just got into a huge fight with the governor of Maine over that. And the reality is, in a federalist system, the feds make the rules if they dish out the money to the states. The same thing is true when the government gives individuals money. There's always strings attached. You can only use those dollars for certain things. and saying you can't use those dollars for something that's going to make you sick, that's going to result in massive medical bills, I don't think is unreasonable. Let's go back to the phones and welcome Tom in San Jose. Tom, hello.
Hey, John. Good to talk to you again. I have to say it. I don't know if it's just you're really patient. Of course you are, but I don't know. That guy already answered what I was going to say. He already stated what I was going to say. It's like this guy that said I already paid into the system, and so I should be able to spend it how I want. I'm not sure how you explained to him, and I think that's how you were trying to approach it, that you are now no longer paying into the system, and if you want to use all that money that you paid into the system that you're collecting now to do what you want to do with it, you can do that. But if you're on a program that everybody's paying for, then, yeah, you have to go with those rules. Isn't that common sense, or am I taking crazy pills since I'm in California?
I think you're 100% correct, and I also think it's a safe bet that if you're on food stamps, you're also on Medi-Cal or Medicaid, you're also on Medicare, you're on some form of government assistance, government program for health care as well. So if we're on the hook to pay for your health care, why in the world would we provide the money that's going to make you sick?
Exactly. And it's almost like, not to be, you got to be careful on the, not trying to be a meaty pants, but yeah, we're not only paying for your food so you can eat, but we're also looking out for your health. And you're literally going to sit there and complain about it? Look, you paid into the system. Thank you. Appreciate it. You can use that money that you're now retired on. You can use that to buy all the junk and booze and whatever you want to buy to destroy your body. But we're paying so you can eat and be healthy and have food on the table and possibly keep you out of the hospital or away from the doctors by, I'm not going to say forcing you, but really encouraging you by not paying for it to maybe get some more healthy stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable how people will still complain when you're not only paying for it, but you're also helping them. Thanks for letting me talk. Appreciate it, John.
All right, and thank you for the call. I'm generally speaking a patient person, but when the phones went down, I did curse up a storm on Monday and Tuesday. Art can verify that. Let's go to Albert in Northern California. Albert, hello.
Hi, John. Thanks for taking my call. I'm listening to the guys calling you. Besides the food stamp thing, I think the last couple callers, not the last one, but a couple callers before, one you were very patient with, they're smoking the weed, too. In other words, they can't even talk. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I would imagine that many people on food stamps smoke that, too.
Yeah, so having food stamps and Kennedy saying, "Hey, no more fast food junk," I'm down with that because I'm not on food stamps. I'm not on the Medi-Cal, and I know my taxes are paying for it. Okay, God bless them all, but they need to help a little bit. But I think I had to call because your callers were just making me laugh.
All right, thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to David from Berkeley. David, hello.
Hey, John, this subject can you hear me? The subject is terrific. I don't know the amount of calls you're getting, but it seems there's a lot of emotion attached to this. And it's all about decisions from my perspective. I mean, you're making the decision to eat well or not, and then you need daddy, they call Trump daddy sometimes, daddy to say, no, you can't do this. We're not going to pay for it. I think it's excellent. I support it 100%.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Catherine in Chatsworth. Catherine, hello.
Hi, John. Thank you for taking my call. I wanted to respond to, I'll use a euphemism, gentleman who called complaining about Social Security and retirees not being able to spend their money. I'm a retired teacher who collects retirement and Social Security, and I don't get a government card. I get checks, and I'm free to spend however I want. And I feel like the idea of a government subsidy or welfare, hello, the word well is in there, is to provide the necessities of life. I've never heard of junk food being a necessity of life. And I'm all too willing to help people who are down and out through my taxpayer money. But if someone wants to gorge on junk food, I don't want to pay for that or for, as you pointed out, the medical expenses that are incurred while they're still probably not paying into the system, relying on taxpayers like me to provide for them. And that's not the idea of fairness.
Well, only in an upside-down world are you the bad guy because you're willing to pay for healthy and nutritious meals.
Hello, California. That's the world we live in. I feel like I stepped through the looking glass.
All right. Thank you for the call. If you're on hold, stay there. We'll get to more calls next hour after we check in with Senator Melissa Melendez. It's the John Phillips Show.